Welcome to the Elk Season Podcast, Season 3, Episode 27? 26. Because today's the 7th.
Yeah.
Episode 26. Today is November 7th, 2024. We are 298 days until Elk Season. 295, which means less than 300.
Yes.
And counting.
Yeah,
Can't wait. And we are the Chambers Brothers. My name is Harold.
I'm David.
Oh, you should talk onto your microphone.
I know. I just realized I'm too far away. Oh, my little rubber came off.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Hold on. Wow, this is totally like how many? The first time back in almost a month, and everything that can go wrong, will go wrong, did go wrong.
All right.
I'm David. If you didn't hear me earlier,
And tonight on the Elk Season Podcast,
we have we're paying tribute to a very special bear in our life. We never met the bear, but we've talked about the bear a lot in the life of this podcast. We're going to talk about invasive species. We're going to talk about Blue Ribbon Coalition. That was a new conversation piece on our last podcast. There's a new bit to talk about. We're going to talk about an Idaho land bridge. Did I say invasive species already?
yeah.
Yeah, I went. Anyway, it's just par for course tonight already. If you're taking notes at home,
That's all right.
And then bears opening doors.
Yeah.
The right kind of doors. I don't know. You'll have to find out.
All right. So, first of all, I just want to say again, this is the Elk Season Podcast. We are dedicated to archery elk, the greatest outdoor sport in North America.
The best.
And the reason for the Elk Season Podcast is to get together every week or every other week and just keep our minds on archery elk. Just to get back to the basics. Talk about the elk, talk about the ecosystem, talk about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And this is a learning process. Do not mistake our enthusiasm as expertise.
Please don't.
We are learning in this process. Please come along with us and learn as we do about everything on the trail, from boots and socks for elk season, all the way up through what to eat, especially what to eat during elk season.
One of your favorite bits will probably be of ours is how to avoid freeze-dried foods. That's one of the common themes we have. So, again, not experts, just super enthusiastic.
I saw a hack this week on TikTok. Somebody's like, you want to make your freeze-dried meals stretch a little bit further, add a bag of freeze-dried rice. I go, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It will make it last longer, but again, freeze-dried carbs are a lot easier to rehydrate than freeze-dried proteins and fats,
right?
Which are very difficult and gross.
I remember trying to eat some freeze-dried eggs and something with you, and we were like, "Oh, I'm gagging with the memory."
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
it's not good.
As we talk about the ecosystem here in the Intermountain Northwest, Idaho, Montana, and Colorado. I'm sorry, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming.
Yes.
Colorado soon with the wolves and probably soon with the grizzlies.
Yeah.
We talk about we are in big predator country. We have wolves, we can hunt wolves. We have grizzly bears, we can almost hunt grizzly bears. And so we follow these stories, and we've been following these stories for a very long time. Because there are some very famous, well-known grizzly bears. And probably the most famous grizzly bear who has ever lived recently passed away.
And it's a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys heard that grizzly bear 399 was struck and killed by a vehicle.
Yes.
And the person who drove that vehicle, I guess, I feel bad for them.
Yeah,
you don't hit a grizzly bear on purpose.
No, and I think one of the reports I saw, they were going the speed limit, just trying to do their drive, and it just was one of those things.
And she was 28 years old, 27 years old.
Yeah.
She had many different groups of cubs. They've and she taught her cubs many different things, and crossing roads was one of them.
Yeah,
because living in the Grand Teton, she was. What do they call her? The matriarch of the Tetons?
Yeah.
And she really is. So many bears up there have come right from 399.
Yeah. And so they've already, like her death was met with swift remorse and memorial services to the degree that there's already an 8-foot statue of her with her 4 famous cubs that have been dedicated last weekend.
And I'm sure that statue is already on its way.
It's very likely.
I mean, they
couldn't have gotten it that. I mean, it's
to have a grizzly bear that old still giving birth to multiple cubs. She very recently, after she turned 20, had quadruplets that she saw all the way to adulthood.
Yeah, that just
and still had
that's one mother.
She still had 1 cub the next spring or 2, I think maybe just 1, but she gave birth again after the quadruplets.
That's just a lot of work, and that's amazing.
And she taught her cubs a lot of interesting things, right? She taught them to wait for the hunters to leave, and then go eat the gut pile. Wow, don't go and disrupt during hunting season. You realize there's a smorgasbord, right? And you realize, well, I want to stay away from humans, but I know what's going on here. And I remember in the early days, some of the things I've read from the trapper books that I've listened to is grizzly bears would learn to run at the sound of a gun.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's something dead there, there's some food there, and or there's a danger close by, and they would just automatically go, nope, I'm the king of the jungle, turn and run towards that sound. So it's interesting to know that the bears will be like, oh, I heard a shot. I wonder if there's something dead. We can go and check it out. I also learned that grizzly bears have eyesight about as good as humans.
Okay.
Which is, they say bears have bad eyesight.
Yeah.
Or as bad as humans.
If they're like me, then yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Bears don't wear contact lenses.
Yeah.
So their eyesight's pretty bad. That's interesting. I wonder what the rod and cone structures are in their eyes, because we've talked about that with deer and elk species, and I came across another article that reiterated those points, particularly the reflective tissue in deer eyes and elk eyes, right? So it takes the light and makes it brighter. So you see deer in the headlights, it's brighter than a human's eyes in the headlights because of that reflective tissue.
And I've started listening to a woman among wolves, who is a young, blonde, cute wolf trapper in Montana in 1980.
That's crazy.
And she talked about the different color eyes of predators and prey.
Okay.
So the color of their eyes, she said predators, wolves and grizzly bears would be more green. Whereas prey animals, large ungulates, would have yellow and orange. Yellow to orange contrast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've seen elk up close enough times. It's like a deep reddish orange.
Yeah, and deer is a little lighter color, like a whiter to yellow. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I've seen enough predators in the dark. But she talked about this experience she had in Montana. They came to film a movie, and when you film a movie in Montana, you have an 18-wheeler. That's just a commissary. That's just that just feeds the actors and the crew.
Oh, I can see where this is going.
And so every day they had a contract. Every day they would set up this 18-wheeler and they would dump everything, all the old oil, vats of oil, right between her cabin and the outhouse.
Oh goodness.
So that's when she learned how to check for the eyes of predators.
Wow.
It's when you had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's kind of important.
Yeah.
Dang it. Wow.
Yeah, so they said they used a coffee can if they saw green eyes. Okay.
Louise.
I'd like to say I've been there. Not quite, but okay.
No, I haven't seen that yet. Of course, I think about it. Anytime, even when I'm in a tent. I know you're in a hammock.
Yeah.
$3.99. Now, real quick, we talked about a bear and they tracked it and it went all around. It was doing like the apple harvest or something. Was that?
Yeah.
That wasn't $3.99.
Oh, no.
But
that was somebody else. I think that grizzly bear actually had a name.
Yeah.
Right, like it was Martha or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That they gave her a name. So some of them they just have numbers, but some of them for one reason or another earn a name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I knew they weren't, but I just was trying to.
$3.99 there was a documentary just out last year on 399.
Yeah, and that's part of what brought her to more fame. She was already famous because people knew about her, but that documentary really just spiraled that.
And it was a very passionate and emotional documentary, and people feel very passionate and emotional about individual grizzly bears. Here at the Elk Season Podcast, we're very sympathetic to individual grizzly bears, but we want to talk about and think about the ecosystem in context,
right?
And not about individual bears. And sometimes bears get hit by cars, and
it's a very sad situation. But at the same time, it is what it is.
It's surprising it hadn't happened sooner. It really is. With as many roads as she's crossed and known to have crossed.
I think it's you have to wonder, like, with all that gained lived experience and knowledge that she had, how did it come to be? There had to have been some special circumstance that just caused her. Was it related to age? Was it related to something that was going on? So who knows? We'll never know because we can't ask the dying bear on its deathbed, why did you do that?
Was your timing off?
They anthropomorphize that, but anyway. But thank you for all your stories, and I'm looking forward to maybe learning about your children.
Yes, yeah, and I'm sure they have DNA on 399, and we'll get to learn more about her children, how many they are, and what they're up to. So, as they come up in the news, we'll let you know.
Yeah, I think her most famous role was in the beginning of The Bear. She was famous from that movie.
Yeah?
I'm just kidding.
That was a long time ago.
I know.
But was it 27 years? Yeah, it was. The movie The Bear is so good.
Yeah.
It's such a great movie.
Not everyone agrees, but those people who don't agree, they can be wrong.
It's okay. I'm okay with that.
Blue Ribbon Coalition. So remind everybody where this started, because we were talking about them helping advocate for
filming on public lands. So if I take my phone out and I take some video on public land and I put it on YouTube, do I need a filming permit for that? And at what point, how much filming equipment do I need to pack into the mountains before they say you need a filming permit to film on public land? Well, it's public land, right? You see all these videos on your scroll. You're like, I went down to the police station, just started filming. What are you doing? Well, it's private land. I can film every one. And you can. And they're right. But people get upset about it, and they're looking for those confrontations.
Sure.
Right? But when you want to talk about, well, it's a public space, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. You can film anyone in a public space without their permission, right?
Yeah.
They may not like it. I don't want a confrontation. I'm not into that kind of stuff. But you see that and you go, okay, well, when I'm out in the woods, how is that different? Right? It's still a public space. So the Blue Ribbon Coalition fought for that, and when they won a pretty big case in Idaho very recently, and they're still working on other cases, and there's a big case down in Moab. I remember when I was talking about the book That Wild Country by Mark Kenyon, and he talked about the behavior down at Moab, the party culture, riding the trails, and he expressed gratitude for those people using their public lands as they saw fit. And they've cut off a lot of trails in Moab. And there's a lot of Jeep people, man.
I've driven down through Utah and different places, and I've seen trails. I mean, there's a lot of space to go.
Yeah.
But if they're cutting off so much and it's hindering people's ability to have adequate recreation, what's going on there?
Right. And we had a discussion before the podcast.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of things we don't know about this whole Moab situation.
So I like what Blue Ribbon Coalition tends to do, but with this particular one, there's some more questions I have, just because I want more information. But if it really does boil down to we're cutting off access when we really don't need to, I think we need to understand that and get back to what we need to be doing.
I want to understand why the access has been denied. Is there some sort of, and I know the desert ecosystem is incredibly fragile, and just like when we talk about Havasupai Falls,
right,
how fragile that ecosystem is, although that's owned by a Native American tribe and not public land,
right. And that's what I brought up, is I wondered with the Bears Ears, what's the relationship there? Is there a relationship with this being cut off because it had something to do with possibly being repatriated or handed back to Native American tribes.
Right.
So there's some questions here that would obviously what you showed me is just a blip on the map of the bigger story.
Yes.
But it's still, nonetheless, I think it's important to have these conversations and ask these questions because
Right. And a story we will be keeping up with here on the Elk Season Podcast. When we see Blue Ribbon Coalition, again, especially out west in elk country, we will be talking about
They give
them.
us, for my brain, this is how lame my brain is, so please judge me. It's okay. I do it all the time. I saw Blue Ribbon Coalition talking about filming in Idaho. I was like, oh, great. There's a coalition in Idaho that's working on this. My brain did not think beyond that, and it should have, because you brought this to me, and I'm like, well, of course they're doing other movements. So I'm excited to see what else they might be involved with. And
it's an advocate group advocating for outdoorsmen.
Yeah.
In whatever respect, in four-wheeling and hunting, to advocate for them for access to our public lands. And so if you want to support them, you can go to blueribboncoalition.com and you can donate the $25, whatever it is, to become a member. And I think because of the lawsuit in Idaho, if you want to film in Idaho on public lands, you have to be a member of the Blue Ribbon Coalition.
Huh.
So because that was the group that filed the suit. It's not just for everybody. It's like, okay, until this is settled, you're off here. You can use it. So
this seems kind of like a conflict of interest, though. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be a Blue Ribbon Coalition member, but it feels like more of a drive for membership when it's stated that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if that's true, what's that about? So it's not that I say it shouldn't happen. I just don't understand it.
It's not $25 a month, right? It's just $25. And I don't know if it's retroactive. Did I have to be a member of the Blue Ribbon Coalition when they filed a lawsuit to have that access?
Interesting. More and more questions keep coming up. So as we find and we learn, we'll let you know.
Yeah. But right now, it feels like they're fighting for me.
Yeah.
And I like it. And I want to talk about them and I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're not fighting for me. I'm just saying there's a
lot of questions. So. Right. There's only so much you can learn from a TikTok. It's not like it's a YouTube where it's 13 and a half minutes exactly.
Right.
So let's get right to it. Things you say at the beginning of a YouTube video. So let's get right into it.
Oh.
Anyway, stuff like that. You'll hear.
Yeah. Invasive species.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite lessons in a class that I know you took eventually too.
Yeah.
Environmental science.
Yeah.
At the college here. And I remember having the conversation. I am really deep rooted in conservation and outdoors. I still kind of wonder sometimes. And I love what I do, and I don't want to change what I do necessarily in whole. But I sometimes wonder, how in the heck do I have all this love for all these other things, but I'm doing something that keeps me grounded. I'm in a classroom. I love doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes I go, oh, if I could just be more outdoors.
I wish I could be a wildlife biologist. Why didn't I just be a wildlife biologist?
My first semester in college, I took environmental science. Yeah. And I loved it.
Yeah.
And one of the conversations was about, how the spread of invasive species occurs, and just a very tactful way, from the large things to the small things, of how we track seeds in our shoes and in the hay and the straw while we see these signs.
Yeah.
And so invasive species is definitely something that I have become an advocate against, particularly exotic pets.
Yes.
Right. So exotic pets because of, a show called Fatal Attractions.
Yeah.
but an invasive species in Florida has gone wild, and it's hard. They have annual, if not yearly, open hunts for these things.
Bounties. Not just hunts.
Yeah.
Bounties. Big bounties.
Because
big money.
They reproduce quickly. They're big. Yeah. They're invasive, and they're starting to prey on other large species in the Everglades, and that is the
white-tailed deer.
No. That's the prey.
Sorry, the reticulating python.
Not the reticulating, but just the python.
The python. I thought it specifically said reticulated python, but
no, I said reticulated python from South Asia.
Oh, okay.
When we were talking earlier, but I just wanted to say python, but that's okay. The point is, it's a python.
It's a python,
and a python
they're not native to Florida.
No,
but they've found an ecological niche there.
Yeah.
That they can feed on huge animals that normally didn't have that as a
prey,
as a predator. So
a predator. Even I get
right,
it wrong.
and they showed, and there's very recent video out there of a 77-pound white-tailed deer being swallowed whole.
Okay. So
by
some
a
of you have
python.
children. I have children smaller than that
Yeah.
deer. And so
As do I.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's concerning. And that's not the first time larger animals have been accosted by these snakes because they've found smaller alligators in these things. I've seen images of that.
Right.
So a deer is a step up, and it's pretty grotesque, that picture.
It's a big step up.
Huge.
It's a big step up. The video opens with scientists now realize that the python can open its jaws even further than they thought.
Yeah.
Which is
and I've come across old tales where people always suspected that their loved one who went into the jungle where these snakes actually live, they disappeared, but they were small in stature and their size, and that was contested by local authorities. But they were able to find smaller humans being eaten by some of these pythons back in their native lands. So,
you ever get to hold a python?
I've touched a snake, but I've never held one. I really have no interest in it.
Junior high up in Montana, we had a science teacher that had one, and he could drape it over your shoulders. It was very calm. His name was Sam, and we could hold it, and it would just move really slow. It was very used to lots of kids. It was in a junior high, but it's striking the heft, the density, right, of an animal like that on your shoulders. And if you go to the Twin Falls Zoo, occasionally they bring out the pythons, and you can. They don't let you. I don't think they let you hold them. They might let you hold them, but the kids. My son will only touch it, which is cool, and it's neat to see. But even the zoo in Twin Falls is a result of people getting pets they shouldn't and don't know how to take care of once they're adults. It's a lot of reptiles.
Yeah, it's kind of horrifying.
Including an alligator that was purchased on Craigslist by a kid who kept it under his bed, hidden from his parents. Anyway,
that is I mean, think about the placards that you read at that zoo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is Billy. Billy ate little Susie, who was the little sister of John, who hid me under his bed.
And was used in this YouTube prank.
Oh, man. I have no more sister. The no sister prank.
Classic.
Feels like a Simpson bit.
Classic. All right.
Sorry.
So
why? Why am I like this?
Invasive species, and I don't think ringneck pheasant is indigenous to the Intermountain Northwest. I don't even know if it's indigenous to America.
I don't know. I missed out on a pheasant hunt in September that was for kids.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember. I have a buddy at work that was telling me about it because he took his daughter.
Yeah.
And they were going to actually teach the kids how to hunt pheasant, kill a pheasant, cook the pheasant.
Nice.
Like it was the whole
nice.
shebang. And I didn't have a chance to get out there because I think we were hunting, but you could find out at events like that. Is where I was going with that.
That's cool.
Is this invasive?
I like pheasants. It's a fun sport. Every time you see a ringneck pheasant on the side of the road, it's the same feeling. In the fall, when you see that pheasant in the fall on the side of the road, it's the same feeling you get in the spring and March when you see that rock chuck. Oh man! Ooh, I just want to shoot it.
I'm over my. Luckily, I have neighbors now who, if there are any more groundhogs out here, they have to deal with them on their side of the fence.
Yeah.
Now. But man.
Yeah.
And I'll stick Lyra on anything that rolls on the ground that shouldn't be there.
And I've seen them in the summertime because you're close to farmland still. Oh, yeah. And so in the summertime, right across that road, there's plenty of
in the new subdivision over there last summer, there were so many of these dumb rodents, and they were digging up my yard still.
Wow.
But there were so many, they did some sort of mass kill event. I don't know how they did it.
Really?
But we were not letting the kids over in that new subdivision because they were literally just piled up. Like they I don't know how they did it or what they did. You know, and of course it attracts hawks and other species, but I'm like, I'm not letting the dog near them. I don't know if they were poisoned or what. Yeah. Or if they smoked them out, that's one thing. But yeah, they
interesting.
And then now they're starting to build in that subdivision. So I think they were just trying to get ahead of that for next season. But
wow.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Wow.
Like, we're walking to the school around this way, not that way. Kind of
and that's a common theme here on the Elk Season Podcast, is where human habitation comes up against
Nature.
Wild habitation.
Yeah.
Nature. Yeah. It's just nature. We're not natural.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I feel bad in one way, but it's also like it is kind of what it is.
It's a zone. It's a zone of interaction, and we talk about it every single week. Where in fact, the 399's death is a direct result of that zone of where humans interact with nature, and unfortunately, it's not so good for nature. Sometimes big weather events, right? Nature wins.
But it's not for a lack of us trying. So as much as we might push around nature, this is a good segue for this next bit. The land bridge.
Yeah.
Right? All these land bridges that pop up everywhere.
Not just a land bridge. The first in Idaho.
The first in Idaho has been in use for some time now.
Yeah.
And it's getting wildly used. And the image, it still kind of boggles my mind. I look at it and I go, that road on one side makes sense, but the other side looks way too steep. Like, where are they coming from? But they are also using lots of fencing. All of these have like so many miles of
2 or 3 miles of fencing in each direction on each side of the road.
And the animals just go. They use it. And
right.
So we actually were talking, and I had already clipped this for today, and on PBS was just playing in the background quietly. And that bridge that I'm talking about, this one, showed up on the TV. Yeah. I was like, hey, I clipped that for today. So, and it was still under construction. And so under construction on the video that they were showing on
right.
The deer were coming across in hordes. So
good.
We're doing our best to coexist.
Right.
And that's like conservation, active management of both predator and prey species, active management of access to the corridors. That was another conversation from that class. I remember talking about different corridors.
Yeah.
As freeways and highways get built, you start cutting off these corridors for animal species like grizzly bear. They're not going to go directly over to the Glacier National Park. They're going to go around.
Right.
And so how do you help access those corridors for those species, and what's the best way to go about it? So
yeah. And I'm sure, as the bears are pretty close to denned up, if not denned up now. When they come out in the spring, we will be talking about where they're coming out, because we had reports of grizzly bears west of I-15 on Oneida Pass.
Yep.
Which is the first time in probably 100 years.
Yeah,
that grizzly bears have been there, and that's the exact route that they're going to take to reconnect, according to the book "The Grizzly in the Driveway" that I read last year, I think.
But speaking of bears,
we
got to keep up the fight on being assertive with bear activity, and so bears are sorry, this is going to sound dumb and cheesy. They are modern day raptors.
They're smart.
They know how to open doors,
right? When I worked at the
Velociraptors, by the way.
Yeah. When I worked at the farm, when I bred watermelons, right?
Yeah.
We purposely bought handles like this and we called them raptor handles.
Yeah, because the
Velociraptor, all they had to do
not a ball.
All they had to do is push down on the lever, and we're always going into the greenhouse with armfuls of stuff. Yeah. So get the raptor handles, otherwise you won't be able to get into the greenhouse.
And not necessarily just with your house. It's car doors. It's like the thief going around the driveway or down through the parking lot. Just who's not locked their car. And
totally a thief, just going through. So I showed you 2 videos. The first one was a bear checking the freezer.
Yeah.
Didn't find what it liked in the freezer. Stood up and opened the fridge.
Yeah.
Then the very next video, is a grizzly bear trying to open a door to a Mercedes. It's locked. He moves to the next car. The next car is unlocked. He opens the door and gets right in it.
And closes the door behind him like he's going to steal that thing.
Right. I think he might have just pushed it and it reflexively shut, but I don't know how good bears are at getting out of cars. That's
a situation where you're going to have to be crafty, get a long rope.
Get a little bit of a string,
and just yank on it and hope it opens.
So and they've started to outlaw people carrying pepper spray in like Yosemite.
Okay.
Right? You need pepper spray for grizzly bears.
Yeah.
People think that bear spray is for all bears, and it's not. It's dumb. Okay? It's made for grizzly bears, and typically your interactions with black bears aren't going to be violent, and until something else comes along, I would advocate an air horn.
Yeah.
Something really loud. Which is what I advocated for on bicycles.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you just need something really loud. Those bears' ears are sensitive. And if you cause them pain, they will want to go away. A biological entity has two basic drives: avoid pain, seek pleasure.
Yeah.
Two basic drives, and which one's which, right? Which one has first priority? Avoid pain always has first priority.
Yep.
So anyways, I'm an advocate of the air horn. Not that I own any.
I've got some on order.
Do you?
No, but I think about it.
But I think there should be something that you can attach to a bicycle, because as I read in the Grizzly in the driveway, there's an innate attraction to a bicycle and the speed it moves. It's just the perfect speed that black bears and grizzlies both innately understand. I can get that.
Pray.
I can catch that. That looks weak. I think I could get that.
It just it's just like playing with your cat in your house. Okay, get a little laser.
Yeah,
that's the same thing that triggers you. It's fast and it moves, but they go, I got to get it.
Yeah,
and so just don't be on a bike.
Yeah, and I know a lot of these videos that we see of black bears coming into human habitation happen far east of here. There's lots of bears in Tennessee.
Higher population areas. For
sure. And they just know. They just get up and go around, check cars all night long like a good thief. And they know how to check freezers and fridge because they break into houses.
Who's going to mess with me?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a blowhorn.
And so, just a better way of dealing with them. But I think, like I said, in Yosemite, I think they've just outlawed pepper spray.
Okay.
Because it just gets misused. People pepper spray themselves.
Yeah.
They coat themselves and
they'll keep the bears away. Oh, my eyes.
And they will also spray it on their tents to keep the bears away from their tent while they're sleeping. Anyway, hilarity ensues.
Yeah. I could keep going, but I won't, because we're already at 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll try to keep you caught up on everything going on in the Intermountain Northwest in the elk's ecosystem. Right now, what are the elk doing?
They're moving to lower ground. It's getting cold. There's already a big whole bunch of snow caps up there on the sawtooths and the boulders.
Yeah.
I was admiring that just a couple days ago.
I'm seeing really big herds. They're starting to herd up in bigger herds. I'm seeing really big herds on my scroll. So I'll wait until I see, 500 or 1,000 head. Because they'll come around in the wintertime and they get some really, really big herds.
Elk is a popular meat. I was talking with people the other day. They're just like, any kind of venison can't handle, but elk, I could eat all day. Yeah. And I agree. I'm not a big fan of the other venison as much. I mean, if I kill a deer, I will eat it. If I can we've talked about antelope. If we can go get an antelope sometime, I would eat that.
Yeah.
But I definitely want an elk.
Yeah.
I came so close. And on that note, you showed me a picture of somebody who got an elk in our area with a rifle because they had a tag, and it looked very familiar to an elk.
It looked so familiar. I
missed.
I'm not saying it's the same one, but wow.
It was a 5-point.
And I may have him on my trail cams.
You may have it, yeah.
He might have been that bugler on the 28th, just before the season opened. Yeah. Or the 29th or whatever.
But congratulations to the person that got him. I just didn't have it in my cards that day. He did, and gun or rifle or bow is irrelevant to me. I mean, I know we make a big hoodoo because I'm big on the bow and the archery, but to each their own,
Right,
so congrats to him. So.
All right. Well, until next time.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
In the morning light, before dawn, bow grip tight, heart beating strong. Through the forest, ancient giants roam, in the land where the wild calls me home. Through the whispering pines and the autumn breeze, driven by the chase, crisp air I breathe. With every step I take, earth beneath my feet. In nature's beauty where the hunter and elk meet. and the autumn breeze. Driven by the chase, crisp air I breathe. With every step I take, earth beneath my feet. In nature's beauty where the hunter and elk meet. Silent as the morning mist, I travel on with careful grace. Every shadow, every sound surrounds me in this wild embrace. The challenge and the thrill, the patience and the skill, in the dance of life and nature, my heart's forever filled. As the sun sets, shadows long and deep, I find my place with the memories I keep. The chase and the beauty of a day gone by. Deep in the mountains, my spirit cries. Through the whispering pines and the autumn breeze. Driven by the chase, crisp air I breathe. With every step I take, earth beneath my feet. In nature's beauty, out where the hunter and elk meet. Here's to the wild places where the elk and I both roam. The chase that brings us closer to the place that I call home. In the stillness of the forest, in the grandeur of the land, I am one with nature's wonder, with my bow here in my hand.